Top 10 verses that have led my life from the time that I left Atlanta, Georgia in 1979 to where I am today. The top 10 verses that enables me, no matter what is brought before me, no matter how many times I've been into a combat zone, those top 10 verses that enable me to be the Christian man that I think that my parents would want me to be and that my God would have me to be. And I want to start off, first of all, by asking you this. How many folks paid attention to the big rallies that were going on yesterday in Washington, D.C. and what have you? I found it real interesting that we have all of this media attention when it's an ideological agenda that is culturally accepted at the time. And let me be very honest and full disclosure. I'm a member of the board of directors for the National Rifle Association. I'm listening to those kids yesterday, all of a sudden, I'm a terrorist. And I have blood on my hands. And Parkland, Florida, Stoneman Douglas High School is in the congressional district that I represented back in 2011, 2013. So I know the area very well. But what I saw yesterday, with all the attention that they're giving to these young people who truly are a little bit misinformed about our Second Amendment right, misinformed about our constitutional rights, misinformed about what it means to live here in America, about liberty and freedom and democracy and individual sovereignty and rights. But I ask you, if there had been a march for our eternal lives, would you have seen as much media coverage? Would you have seen people out there with all of this, support and all of this groundswell? Would you have seen this incredible movement? And see, this is what I want us to start doing, grown-ups. We have got to start encouraging our young people. We have to start enabling them and empowering them to get out there and truly show what our eternal lives are all about. And not just this politicized agenda. Every January there is this thing called the March for Life. Yep. And I don't see a whole lot of news media out there. And I see hundreds of thousands of young people that are out there talking about that first inalienable of a right that is guaranteed to us by our Creator, as stated by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. And that's life. So I want to encourage you young people tonight, to get out there on this ideological battlefield. To do as my mother once said, that a man must stand for something, or else he will fall for anything. And if you are to stand, there is no greater person to stand for than our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So let me start. I'm going to come from 1 Timothy 4 and 12. If you want to follow along in your Bibles, if you want to take notes, that's fine. But this is the encouragement that Paul gave to young Timothy. And let me just clarify this. I'm 57. I want to see all of the people 30 and below stand up and fight. Because at one point in time, we're going to have to turn this over to you. Because I'm going to probably be in some old folks' home eating tapioca, wearing Bermuda shorts with black socks and dress shoes. And not, okay? I'm still going to be on my motorcycle. But anyhow, here in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 12, it says, take heart, young people, and listen to this. Let no one look down on your youthfulness, but rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, show yourself an example of those who believe. We just heard this thing about letting your light shine, about being a city upon a hill. That's what we need young people to do. That's what we need you to be. And let me tell you how I want you to take that stand. My top 10 verses starts with Joshua, my favorite character out of the Bible, chapter 1. And in Joshua chapter 1, verses 5 through 9, it says very simply. Let me find my spot. I had it marked. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall give the people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it from the right or to the left, so that you may have success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have success. Have I not commanded you? Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. 3 times in those verses you're told to be strong and courageous. See, so often we as the Christian body, and so often young people, you got to understand, we are not called to be wimps, whiners, or wussies. We're called to be strong. We're called to be courageous. We're called to stand for that which God has empowered us to believe in. Imagine being Joshua and all of a sudden Moses is dead, and Joshua looks at this incredible multitude of people. And now he's in charge of that multitude to take them across the River Jordan into this promised land. When you're the only one, when you're walking on your college campus, when you're walking on your high school campus, you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to tremble. You don't need to be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Just be strong and courageous. But to empower yourself to be able to do that, you cannot turn from it to the right or to the left. And you must meditate upon it day and night. But the other thing that I want you young people to also study, to meditate upon, to not turn from day or night, is this little thing that I carry wherever I go. And the reason why it has a paper clip on it is because it's kind of falling apart. But this is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. If you don't understand the rule of law in America, if you don't understand how your Judeo-Christian faith heritage helped to shape these documents, then this great nation that God has so blessed us to have, this beacon of liberty, freedom, and our Judeo-Christian faith heritage that you all are here training to be able to go out and evangelize, be missionaries all across the entire world, then if this blessing is lost, then what happens to the rest of the world? You are that light. You are that city yourself sitting upon a hill. And so let your light shine by being strong and being courageous. Not being weak, not being afraid, but always standing for that which is right. The second verse, Proverbs 3:5-7. Where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And do not lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It's so important in life that you realize that you can sit down and you can make whatever plans that you want in life. God's got a really big eraser. When I retired from the United States military, Fort Hood, Texas in 2004, I would have never thought that I would be back in Texas. But see, God knows what he has planned for you. And the important thing, young people, is as you have this strength, as you have this courage, just trust the Lord and not try to guide your life. You can't play checkers or chess with God. You'll lose. There was once upon a time this play that said your arms are too short to box with God. The thing is, it's all about submitting to his will. And when you submit to his will, as it said in Joshua 5-9, if you understand and not turn from this from the left or to the right, if you meditate upon it day by day, you will have that success. You will have that prosperity wherever you go. You're being trained up right now, as it said for Esther, as a time such as this. But open up your heart and ask the Lord what he would have you to do. And not sit back, as Jonah did, and say, no, I'm going to do what I want. Because I don't think any of y'all here want to be fish bait. That's what I'm saying. You don't play checkers. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not upon your own understanding. And you will have that success and prosperity. In Isaiah 54:17, you know, so often we as Christians, we don't like it when people come against us. We don't like it when they call us the names and all of this type of stuff. What does it say in 54:17 of Isaiah? No weapon. Let me repeat it again. No weapon. Let me say it a third time, like God told Joshua to be strong and of good courage. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you will condemn. But that's the heritage of the Lord. Let me tell you something. If you guys have been out there following me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, I get called Uncle Tom. I get called Oreo. I get called sellout. I get called white man's porch monkey. Yeah, me a porch monkey. Can you believe that? I hate bananas. I get called the house N-word. But see, folks, this is what I want you to understand. When people are calling you a name, you've already won. You've already overcome them. Because you are shining your light so strong. You are so strong and courageous. You know that you're being obedient to God's will. And no one can stand up against you if you're obedient to God's will. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. Because that's the power of the God that we serve. And what the God that we serve wants us to do is to get out there and fight. Think about what they did to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Think about what they're doing to Christians all over the world. Pakistan, the Middle East, and some of these other places. And you know what? They refuse to give up on their Lord. We need to have that same strength of courage. We need to have that same conviction within each and every one of our hearts if we're to be successful in going out and standing for our Lord. The next verse comes from Jeremiah. Jeremiah 29:11. For once again, I know the plans that I have made for you, declares the Lord. Plans for your welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. So many times I hear young people in some of these polls and whatever saying that there is no hope for my future. There is no hope for America. Everything looks bleak. I don't ever want to hear a young Christian saying that I don't have any hope. Because if your hope is in the right place, God knows the plans that He has already prepared for you. And you can go out there and you can march forward with full courage, with full strength, knowing that you have trusted, not in your own understanding, but in His. Knowing that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Knowing that He holds you in His hands. That's the power that you have. And maybe some people here in these texts know the same. People will know you by the company that you keep. In Micah 6:8, it says, He has told you, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require of you? But to seek justice, love kindness, mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Back in the day when I was a commander in the military, and you had that new officer, that new soldier reporting in, and you were sitting there at the desk, and then all of a sudden you heard that sound. That was that new troop knocking to come in. And they walked in, and as they're taking each step, you're sizing them up. You're looking at their haircut, you're looking at their uniform, you're looking at their boots to see if they're spit shine. You're doing everything to get a measure of that person. And then when they snap to and they give you that salute and they report, you either confirm or deny that initial assessment that you made. When you are out there walking about in the world, you should not be conformed to the world, but you make the world conform to you, because you are showing them something through how you walk, what is required of you to seek justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. Because your reputation, everything about you before you open your mouth is your calling card. Because there were certain expectations that you all had of me before I even showed up here tonight. And now you're sitting here and you're thinking either you're confirming or denying what your initial assessment was of me before I showed up. That's how life is. And sometimes, how many people here ever saw the miniseries on HBO called Band of Brothers? That unit, the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, had a Cherokee word that was the motto. That Cherokee word was Kurahi. You know what that word means in English? Stands alone. The strength that you have as a follower of Christ is that you must be able to stand alone. But you can stand alone because everything about you just exudes. In your confidence, in your humility, in your love of justice, in your love of kindness, in the strength and the courage that you show, and the blessings that you know that God has the plans for you and you're obedient to Him. Never forget Micah 6 and 8. Now let's go to the New Testament. In John 16 and 33, where it says, "These things I have spoken to you, so that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation, but take courage. I have overcome the world." See, so often we sit and we get muck and mired down and looking and saying, "We can't overcome this. We can only be in a surrender mode." But if you're strong and of good courage, if you're obedient to God and you trust not in your own understanding but in Him, if you know that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, if you know that He has the plans made for you, if you are walking as He has commanded you, in justice, with kindness and mercy, and humility, then nothing can defeat you. And that is what God said. You know, I think I remember that song, "I beg your pardon, I didn't promise you a rose garden." Yeah. Being a Christian doesn't mean everything's going to be a rose garden, folks. Being a Christian means that you're about to be tested. And that's how you truly find out what the value and the worth of your faith is. And that leads to the next verse. In Romans chapter 5, verses 3 through 5. "And not only this, we also exult in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance brings about character." You know what I used to teach my soldiers and leaders what character was? You know what I taught my daughters what character is? Character is doing what is right when no one's watching. And from character, hope. Hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who is given to us. You're more than overcomers. And this is the thing we must understand, young people, as Christians. What did Marilyn Monroe say that is a girl's best friend? Diamonds. What is a diamond when you first see it? When you first find it, first bring it out of the earth? It's just a black rock. How is this black rock made into one of the most beautiful things that the world has ever known? It costs us men a lot of money. It goes through pressure. It goes through intense heat. How is steel purified so that it can build a building like this? It must go through intense fire. See, this is why it says, "And not only this, but we also exult in our tribulations." Do not ask for a rose garden. If you're a Christian, you ask to be used. You ask for the hard assignments. You ask to go where you think no one else will go. Because that is the only way that you're going to grow. That you're going to have that perseverance. That you're going to have that character. And that you're going to have that hope. Not the hope in yourself, not the hope in man, but the hope in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Which leads over to Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. "And we know that God causes all things to work together for those who love God, for those who are called according to His purpose." In 31 it says, "What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against me I shall condemn." And in verse 37 it says, but in all these things we overwhelmingly conquer through him who loved us. Be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Too often, so many people think that their position is their purpose. Let me tell you, young people, the two most important days in your life is the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. When you find out why you were born, then you have the real purpose. Real purpose. And that's what YWAM, because it's real hard to say that. Why do y'all make that so YWAM, okay? It's kind of like green eggs and ham. But when you come here, you are seeking out that purpose for you to go out there and be more than conquerors. You're seeking that purpose so that you can go out and be strong and of good courage. You're seeking that purpose because you know that he has made the plans for you and that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. See, the important thing that we have to realize is that God and Jesus Christ enables us to be a victor, the big V. I get sick and tired when I see Christians that walk around and act as victims with a little v. That's not where our God calls us to be. And that leads to the next verse that I have for you. And that next verse is found in Philippians 4:13. I can do a few things, some things, a couple of things every other week. You can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens you. So why are you afraid? Why when people call you a name? Why when people say, you know, being a Christian ain't cool? Why do you cower away? Think about where we are in the United States of America today. When Christians have to go before the Supreme Court for the beliefs they have, and just marriage being one man and one woman. When Christians are called mentally ill on a very popular news show on ABC. Don't you think it's funny that woman's first name is Joy? There ain't no joy there. We have the true joy. And you are not mentally ill. The thing is, you need to be all in all the time to do all things. Whether it's at 2 o'clock in the morning or is it 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You got to be ready to answer that call. Just the same as when you're a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, and that phone call comes and says, we need you to deploy. The country needs you. Well, the country needs its Christian community to stand up. The country truly needs our young Christians to stand up right now. And when you get that call, you got to answer. If you're truly all in, all the time, for all things. And the last verse is this. Over in James, chapter 1, starting at verse 2 through 5. Consider it all joy, my brethren, my sisters, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. Back to that perseverance. And let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be complete and lacking in nothing. But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, just the same as Solomon did, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. In the military, we have this saying. We say you always run to the sound of the guns. Count it all joy. When you hear the sound of the guns, when you hear that conflict, when you hear that demonization of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, you run and confront it. You don't cower, you don't sit back. You go and you engage it. That's the power of who we are. It was Sir Edmund Burke who said this: all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. When you look at what is happening in our schools, when you look at what is happening in our culture, is because this Christian community stopped being all in all the time for all things. And we have allowed darkness, we have allowed the evil to come in. We put that lampshade over our light. It's time to take that lampshade off. I want you to remember this one thing. If the devil is comfortable, you ain't doing your job. Your job, your purpose, is to confuse and confine and make the devil uncomfortable. To have him running and fleeing away from you, instead of him believing that he is the one that's in control and in power. This is what I want young Christians to do. This is why it is so important Youth with a Mission is here. Because I looked at your emphasis. Worship, holiness, witness, prayer, fellowship. I read about your 18 values. It says to know God and make God known. If you're not strong and courageous, you're not going to make God known. If you don't know that he has the plans made for you, if you're not willing to trust in him, if you're trying to trust in your own understanding, if you don't realize that you have already overcome the world because he overcame it for you, if you're not willing to run to the sound of the guns, you can know God. How are you going to make God known? When I look at hear God's voice, practice worship and intercessory prayer, be visionary, champion young people, be broad structured and decentralized, be international and non-denominational, have a biblical Christian worldview, function in teams, exhibit servant leadership, because that's who our God is. The Son of Man said that he came not to be served, but to serve. Do first, then teach. Because leadership is all about setting the example. Let me tell you something about going into combat. No one follows a dummy into combat. Dummies get you killed in combat. If you're going to step out on this spiritual battlefield, you got to have that full armor of God. Remember what God told Joshua? Meditate on it day and night. Do not turn from it from the right or to the left. Be relationship oriented, value the individual, value families, practice dependence on God. What is happening in the United States of America is that people don't want us to depend upon God with the big G. There are people that want us to depend on government with a little g. And if we move God, our Creator, out of the marketplace, then who is the person that grants your inalienable rights? That's the challenge. Practice hospitality and communicate with integrity. Because as I told young officers, once you sacrifice your integrity, you're no good to anybody. Every single day you wake up, understand this, you look at yourself in the mirror. Before you walk out of your room, your dormitory, your house, or whatever, there are three things that you have. Your honor, your integrity, and your character. No one can take them away from you. But each day you must fight to make sure that you do not surrender them. So that at the end of the day, you can look at yourself in the mirror and still say that I'm a man or a woman of honor, integrity, and character. Character that comes from trials and tribulations that has strengthened my faith. Be strong in the Lord. Never give up hope. You're going to do great things. I already know. God's got his hand on you, so don't live life in fear. Forgive and forget, but don't ever forget why you're here. Take your time and pray. Thank God for each day. His love will find a way from one simple life to another. These are the words I would say. God bless you all. Thank you.